Welcome back. Joining me now as we're following the breaking news of this CR potentially falling apart and the odds of a government shutdown getting higher is the panel here. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor, former special assistant to President Biden, Megan Hayes, and former communications director for the RNC and Republican strategist, Doug Heye. Thank you all so much for joining me. Sahil, I want to start with you. Things are changing minute by minute here. What's the latest from the Hill?
Yeah, this is a political earthquake on Capitol Hill, Gabe. There are 30 hours to go, roughly, before a government shutdown, and President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Vance are swooping in to try to blow up a government funding deal that was struck by the leaders of both parties. It was released just last night. It's a big, sprawling bill, 1,500 pages and all. It would keep the government open until March 14th, and just basically kicked the deadline into early in the Trump presidency. That was the theory of the case. But Trump and Vance say this bill should not pass. They're taking aim at a host of provisions in the bill, including a pay raise for members of Congress, which would be the first since 2009. They're also demanding a debt ceiling increase in a short-term bill that they say should replace this. That is extraordinary. That has been nowhere in the mix. That's extremely difficult to pass, and it's very unlikely they can do this in the next 2 days.
Yeah, you called this an earthquake. Look, earlier in the day, we were hearing from the Hill that, this was, not going to happen. The odds of a shutdown were very low. Doug, is this the Elon Musk effect?
I don't know yet, but it's certainly part of the Donald Trump effect. And, when Sahil was covering Capitol Hill when I was working in House leadership, we dealt with government shutdowns. We dealt with debt limit fights. The majority leader lost his primary. Those were calm, quiet days compared to what's going on just today. And what really looks to be the rest of this lame duck session and going into the President Trump's new term. And as he goes in, he may be creating a turbulence for himself as well. We start with a speaker vote. Is that now going to be in question? And if you're coming in as a new president, even if you've been there before, is that how you want to start 14 days before you're sworn in?
Right. And
risky strategy.
Megan, Hakeem Jeffries out with that tough-sounding statement. Where are Democrats in all this?
Look, I think that the Republicans are realizing that they need Democrats to pass some of these things, and this is going to be what's a foreshadowing for next year. I do think this is an Elon Musk effect on Trump, because he put out a statement first, got a bunch of news. Trump probably got angry that he was getting more news, and so then they put out a statement. So I do think this is how it's going to go in next time. But I think that the Democrats are playing it smart. They know that they are needed, and they know that they need certain things. And asking for a debt ceiling raise, I mean, some of these demands are just not reasonable, and I don't think that they're going to work without the Democrats.
And Sahil, does this really happen hour by hour? Walk us through kind of what the vibes were on the Hill. We were here earlier in this broadcast. The vibes were very different than they are now. How did this change hour by hour, and how did we get to Donald Trump weighing in on this?
I think it started with the fact that this bill was supposed to come out over the weekend, give members several days to look at it, the 72-hour rule that House Republicans like to talk about, and that Speaker Johnson said he was committed to doing. That didn't happen. It got pushed. It got pushed again. It came out late yesterday. And then suddenly Republicans were looking at a 1,500-page bill that they were either forced to pass or shut down the government. And in some cases, I think they would have passed it, but it turns out with social media, with conservative media kind of lighting up against this, a lot of House Republicans came out against it. Elon Musk had been tweeting up a storm all day against it, elevating and boosting Republicans who were opposed to it. And now we have this joint statement from Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. It seems to be the clincher. We have not seen a statement or an announcement from Speaker Mike Johnson yet, but I'd be very surprised if this bill can pass.
What is going through Mike Johnson's head right now, Doug?
I'm not going to repeat the language that's going specifically through his head, but this is what you sort of what you sign up for, except you don't expect this. This is certainly unprecedented, but everything with Donald Trump comes without precedent, and I think that's one of the things. Moving into a new Congress and a new administration should give Republican leadership some real pause here. If I'm John Thune, I'm not happy right now either, and he's in a new job. So as we have the speaker vote, which we've had at least one Republican member so far say that they won't support Johnson, at least in the first balloting. Right. This kind of chaos is not good for a new president.
Speaking of chaos, look, we were at the beginning of the show, we were talking about, oh my goodness, there might be a problem come March, with another funding fight there, 100 days into the Trump presidency. Now, before we are even into the Trump presidency, there is all this chaos on the Hill. Megan, how do we navigate this with, the Republicans having such a slim majority? Will would Democrats ever help Republicans in this situation, or is this a case where they're just going to have to let this play out and let the Republicans fight amongst themselves?
I think they'll let them fight amongst themselves on certain things, but I do think come a new Congress, they will help them on certain things like the economy. I think things that are going to help taxes and help middle-class people, I think the Democrats will help the Republicans on. I think that's a smart strategy for the midterms and then heading into 28. But I don't think they're going to help them now. I think they're just going to let them fight it out. Why? Why help them? Like, what good comes of this? It just is going to land back on you.
By the way, there's a phrase on Capitol Hill of getting to 218. If you're in the majority in the House, you need 218 votes. When Donald Trump is president, these members who've, raised alarms over the past couple of days, are they going to be willing to defy him? So there is a reason why Trump is, wants to get this off the decks and a debt limit increase now as opposed to in March when he's president. But ultimately, when he is president, he's going to have to deal with some of these things. And if you're Thomas Massey and you talk tough about MAGA, are you going to stand up to? Are you going to out MAGA, the creator of MAGA?
And look,
good luck.
With so many big issues coming up in the next couple of months, we're just talking about immigration. My colleagues Julia Ainsley and Julie Sirkin reporting that ICE facing a $230 million budget shortfall, and the administration is going to need Congress on board in order to move forward with this mass deportation plans. I want to play some sound that we're just getting from some of these House Republicans on their reaction to what's going on in the Hill right now. Let's listen.
Passing 1,550-page bills, and we've passed $330 billion of deficit spending since we were given the majority back on November 5th. That's not the way to, earn the American people's trust.
The fact is that, look, this is a sandwich. I don't know how else to say that. We're being forced into this position. They could have done a standalone. They did this because they knew that it would put members in this position to support it. We're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
There's 435 people, but in the House here, right? There's a handful of people that make all the decisions. And everybody else is furniture. You're furniture. You get these bills, 1,500 pages, and you just get in line and support what the handful of people have said. That's the way things have worked up here. It's shameful in many ways.
Sahil, that sounds like flat-out mutiny that Mike Johnson has right now.
It's also a rude awakening for Trump about the legislative reality that he faces next year. They're going to do some sort of temporary bill whenever they can get this through that Democrats and Republicans are going to have to renegotiate. So they're going to have to go back to the table, cut a deal with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer to get anything through. They also, again, have to do the debt limit. It comes due next year. They need to do the confirmations through the Senate in the first several weeks of the Trump presidency. They want to do a big reconciliation bill on a party line basis with this tiny majority. All of this stuff at once. And we're seeing, I think, again, a preview of the legislative chaos we typically see when Donald Trump is at the helm. He does not pay close attention to legislating, sometimes until it's too late.
Oh, is that all? Is that all? I want to ask you something else. Switching gears now as we continue to follow that breaking news. A GOP-led subcommittee is now saying that Liz Cheney should be investigated for her role on January 6th. We were talking about that earlier in the broadcast. And in a statement, she said that Chairman Loudermilk's interim report intentionally disregards the truth and the Select Committee's tremendous weight of evidence and instead fabricates lies and defamatory allegations in an attempt to cover up what Donald Trump did. Sahil, where do we go from here? And do you think that the Republicans, where do we go from here with this investigation of Liz Cheney? Does it benefit what the GOP is trying to do right now?
I think that remains to be seen. I think this looks like Congressman Loudermilk, in a way, taking his cues from Trump, who has for months been saying Liz Cheney should be investigated, maybe she should be prosecuted. I think this is a reminder where a lot of Trump's allies will kind of defend him and say, oh, don't take him too literally, take him seriously. This is a reminder that a lot of his allies in positions of power do take him literally and seriously. Now, where this goes, I think it all remains to be seen. We know Trump's desire to kind of centralize control of the Justice Department and make his own calls in terms of what happens there. He will also have powerful allies on Capitol Hill who have subpoena power to launch their own investigations and maybe advance Trump's retribution agenda.
Doug, Trump told Kristen Welker that he does believe some members of the January 6th committee should go to jail. But is this him basically laying the groundwork for other people to do his bidding, that he won't actually direct them to do it? But
absolutely. He doesn't have to tell you to do it. You just follow orders that weren't explicitly given to you. But I would have said, if we were talking just as recently as 15 minutes ago, Republicans, you've got a lot better things on your hand to do than this. 15 minutes later, with what we've just seen with the Trump-Vance statement, you have very immediate things that are better to do than this. Keep your eye on the ball.
So, Megan, how seriously now do you think President Biden will consider a preemptive pardon for Liz Cheney, and should she accept it?
You know, I don't know what the administration is going to do here. I think that they're obviously all the options are on the table. I don't think decisions have been made, but I don't actually think Republicans want going into midterms that are extremely challenging with such a slim majority to have the American people focused on January 6th and the fact that the President-elect Trump tried to cause an insurrection and overthrow the government. So I'm not sure that having this and bringing all these people back and all this evidence back up is going to be good for them. But again, he's tweeting at 3 o'clock in the morning instead of worrying about things like a CR and the debt ceiling.
And really quickly, because we're running out of time, Doug, President-elect Trump is saying that his inaugural message will be about unity. How's that looking?
I think we've just learned again in the past 15 minutes. Not very optimistic on that.
All right. I want to thank you all for joining me. Sahil, Megan, Doug, thank you all for joining us here on the panel.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.